Picture this. The year is 1970, a peaceful suburban neighborhood, children's laughter and freshly baked apple pies. But beneath this perfect world, evil lurked, ready to shatter the illusion of safety. But something lurked beneath the surface. Ted Bundy, a charming law student, hid a heart of pure darkness. His crimes were calculated displays of cruelty, a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. Now, let's step back in time. To understand Ted Bundy, the charming monster next door, we must delve into his life and psyche. Ted Bundy was the epitome of the American dream. Born in 1946, he was intelligent, charismatic, and seemingly perfect. But beneath this facade, a darkness festered, waiting to shatter the illusion. He was known for his kindness and compassion. Bundy volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline, masking his disturbed psyche. His charm was a facade, hiding a monster in disguise. Even with his facade, there were cracks in Bundy's persona. Close friends recalled moments of coldness and detachment. These red flags were dismissed, the illusion too convincing to be questioned. As Bundy grew older, his facade crumbled. His relationships became unstable, marked by possessiveness and control. The once charming law student was transforming into a predator. Little did anyone know that beneath Bundy's charm lurked a monster. His crimes would shock the nation, shattering the illusion of safety. Before the headlines, Bundy lived a double life, his true nature a secret. As the 1970s unfolded, young women began to vanish. A terrifying pattern emerged, hinting at a predator operating with precision. The disappearances cast a pall over the region, fear gripping the communities. Their disappearances followed a similar terrifying script. Bundy, a master manipulator, preyed on their kindness. His crimes shattered the illusion of safety, proving evil could lurk behind any facade. Fear and suspicion gripped the once peaceful communities. The unknown killer haunted their thoughts, transforming towns into hunting grounds. Every stranger was viewed with suspicion. The boogeyman had a new face. As investigators delved deeper, a glimmer of hope emerged. The discovery of a unique bite mark provided a crucial lead. This macabre calling card would ultimately lead to Bundy's downfall. Behind the charm Bundy's modus operandi was a chilling blend of deception, charm and brutality. He would often scout locations where young women frequented, blending into the background, patiently observing his potential victims, studying their routines, their vulnerabilities. He would then strike when they least expected it, his carefully crafted facade of normalcy disarming them, lulling them into a false sense of security. He might pretend to be injured, his arm in a sling, a crutch supporting his weight, relying on their innate kindness, their willingness to help a stranger in need. Other times, he would use his charisma, his boyish good looks and disarming smile to gain their trust. He might engage them in conversation, feigning interest in their lives, their dreams, their fears. He was a master manipulator, able to adapt his persona to fit the situation, always playing the part that would lower their guard, making them more susceptible to his advances. Once he had lured his victims to a secluded location, the mask would slip, the charm replaced by a chilling coldness, a terrifying detachment. He would overpower them, binding their hands, silencing their screams, their pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. He would drive them to remote areas, forests, parks, places where he believed their bodies would never be found. But Bundy's crimes went beyond the physical act of murder. He was obsessed with control, with exerting his dominance over his victims, even in death. He would often return to the sites where he had dumped their bodies, sometimes days, weeks, even months later, to relive his crimes, to revel in the horror he had inflicted. The escape artist. But Bundy's reign of terror was far from over. In 1975, Bundy's luck seemed to run out. He was arrested in Utah on suspicion of kidnapping and assault. However, Bundy, ever the cunning manipulator, managed to escape from custody not once, but twice. His first escape, from a courthouse in Aspen, Colorado, where he was representing himself in a burglary case, saw him leaping from a second-story window, disappearing into the surrounding wilderness. His second escape, from the Garfield County Jail in Colorado, was even more audacious. He had spent months meticulously planning his escape, losing weight to squeeze through a narrow gap in his cell's ceiling and studying the jail's routines. On the night of December 30th, 1977, while the rest of the jail was celebrating the holiday season, Bundy slipped through the gap, leaving behind a dummy made of pillows and blankets in his bed. His escapes, a testament to his cunning and ruthlessness, sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the public alike. The manhunt for Ted Bundy intensified, his face plastered on wanted posters across the country. He had become a national nightmare, the embodiment of evil lurking beneath a charming facade. The knowledge that he was out there, free to kill again, cast a long shadow over the country, transforming everyday encounters into potential horrors. The charming monster had slipped his leash and no one knew where he would strike next. Section 3. Florida Bloodbath. Emboldened by his escape, Bundy headed south, his bloodlust reaching a fever pitch. Assuming a new identity using the alias Chris Hagen, Bundy attempted to blend into the sunny, carefree atmosphere of Tallahassee, Florida. He rented a room near Florida State University, a decision that would have devastating consequences for a group of unsuspecting young women. Bundy's time on the run had done little to quell the darkness that consumed him. In fact, it seemed to have fueled his bloodlust, his need to control and dominate, amplified by his newfound freedom. He began to frequent bars and clubs near the university, his eyes scanning the crowds, searching for his next victims. He was a predator on the prowl, his senses heightened, his every move calculated to draw as little attention to himself as possible. He was a ghost, drifting through the vibrant tapestry of Tallahassee, leaving a trail of fear and despair in his wake. On the night of January 14th, 1978, Bundy's carefully constructed facade of normalcy shattered, unleashing a torrent of violence that would forever stain the annals of American crime. Section 4. The Chi Omega Massacre. On January 15, 1978, Bundy committed his most heinous act of violence. He broke into the Chi Omega sorority house on the Florida State University campus, armed with a club fashioned from an oak branch. He entered the sorority house in the dead of night, his mind consumed by a darkness that defied comprehension, his heart devoid of any shred of humanity. He attacked 4 young women in their sleep, bludgeoning them with the club, his rage fueled by a twisted sense of power and control. 2 of the women, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, died from their injuries, their young lives brutally cut short, their futures stolen by a monster hiding in plain sight. Bundy didn't stop there. He continued his rampage, attacking 2 other women, Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler, leaving them with severe injuries. As he fled the sorority house, his clothes stained with the blood of his victims, he broke into another apartment, attacking a young woman named Cheryl Thomas, who would miraculously survive to provide crucial evidence against him. The Chi Omega massacre sent shockwaves through the nation. The brutality of the attacks, the randomness of the victims, and the audacity of Bundy's crimes shocked and terrified the public, shattering any remaining illusion of safety, especially on college campuses, once considered sanctuaries of learning and growth. Bundy's mask had finally fallen, revealing the monster he truly was. The manhunt for Ted Bundy reached a fever pitch. Law enforcement agencies across the country were now laser-focused on capturing the man responsible for these horrific crimes. Bundy had become public enemy number one, his face plastered on every newspaper and television screen, his name whispered in hushed tones, a chilling reminder that evil could lurk in the most unexpected places. The eyes of the nation turned to Miami, Florida, where Ted Bundy stood accused of the Chiomega murders, crimes so heinous, so shocking, that they had shaken the nation to its core. The trial, which began in June 1979, was more than just a legal proceeding. It was a cultural moment, a collective reckoning with the dark side of human nature and the terrifying reality that monsters could walk among us hiding in plain sight. The prosecution, led by the seasoned state attorney Larry Simpson, was determined to bring Bundy to justice, to hold him accountable for the terror he had inflicted. They presented a meticulously constructed case, relying on eyewitness testimony, forensic evidence, and the sheer brutality of Bundy's crimes to paint a picture of a cold, calculating killer driven by a perverse need for control and dominance. The defense, led by the young and ambitious attorney Margaret Good, faced an uphill battle. Bundy, against their advice, insisted on participating in his own defense, a decision that would both captivate and repel the nation as they watched him, a man accused of unspeakable acts, confidently stride to the podium, his voice calm, his demeanor controlled, as if he were arguing a simple parking ticket rather than fighting for his life. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming, the details of the crimes too gruesome to ignore. Yet Bundy, with his undeniable charisma and cunning ability to manipulate those around him, seemed determined to turn the trial into a spectacle, a platform from which he could control the narrative, casting himself as a victim of circumstance, a pawn caught in a web of his own making. The trial itself was a media frenzy, broadcast live on national television. Millions of Americans tuned in daily, transfixed by the unfolding drama, their living rooms transformed into front-row seats to a real-life horror movie. The courtroom became a stage, the participants actors in a macabre performance that blurred the lines between reality and fiction. Bundy, a narcissist at heart, seemed to relish the attention, using his time in the spotlight to craft his own narrative, to present himself as an intelligent, articulate, and even charming individual, a far cry from the monster the prosecution portrayed him to be. He would often smile at the cameras, his eyes twinkling with a disturbing amusement, as if he were playing a game, one that he was determined to win, regardless of the stakes. The courtroom became a battleground for public opinion, a space where fear and fascination collided. On one side, there was a collective desire for justice, a need to hold Bundy accountable for the pain and suffering he had inflicted. On the other side, there was a morbid curiosity, a fascination with the dark side of human nature, a desire to understand how someone could commit such horrific acts. The trial became a cultural touchstone, a shared experience that sparked countless conversations about violence, justice, and the nature of evil. It was a stark reminder that the world was not always a safe and predictable place, that darkness could lurk in the most unexpected corners, and that sometimes the most charming facades hid the most sinister of truths. However, the most damning piece of evidence came from the brutalized body of Lisa Levy, one of the victims from the Chiomega massacre. During the attack, Bundy, in a fit of rage and depravity, had bitten Levy on her left buttock, leaving behind a gruesome wound that would prove to be his undoing. Forensic odontologist Dr. Richard Souviron, a pioneer in the field of bite mark analysis, was called to the stand to present his findings. Souviron had meticulously compared the dental impressions of Ted Bundy's teeth to photographs of the bite mark on Lisa Levy's body. His conclusion was clear and unambiguous. The bite mark was a match, a piece of irrefutable physical evidence that linked Bundy directly to the crime scene, to the brutalized body of a young woman whose life had been cut tragically short. The presentation of the bite mark evidence was a turning point in the trial. The courtroom was silent as Dr. Souviron presented his findings, his words cutting through the tension, the gravity of the evidence settling over the room like a shroud. Bundy, who had maintained an air of confidence, even arrogance throughout the trial, seemed visibly shaken, his composure momentarily shattered as he realized the full weight of the evidence against him. The prosecution had presented a mountain of evidence, but the bite mark was the smoking gun, the irrefutable proof that connected Bundy to the Chi Omega murders. It was a chilling reminder that even the most cunning of criminals could be brought down by the smallest of details, by the traces of evidence they leave behind, a testament to the power of forensic science and the unwavering pursuit of justice. A twisted mind on display. Throughout the trial, Bundy continued to exude a disturbing charm, often smiling at the jurors, engaging them with his gaze, attempting to establish a rapport, to humanize himself in their eyes. He seemed to believe that he could charm his way out of this situation, that his intelligence and charisma would be enough to sway the jury, to convince them that he was not the monster the prosecution portrayed him to be. He would often interrupt his own attorneys, offering unsolicited legal advice, his need for control extending even to the courtroom. He cross-examined witnesses, his voice calm, his questions calculated, attempting to poke holes in their testimony to sow seeds of doubt in the minds of the jurors. During his closing arguments, Bundy delivered a rambling, disjointed speech, his carefully constructed facade finally crumbling under the weight of the evidence against him. He maintained his innocence, claiming he was a victim of circumstance, a scapegoat for crimes he did not commit. However, his words rang hollow, his performance unconvincing, his carefully crafted mask of sanity slipping with every sentence. The jury, after deliberating for just 7 hours, returned with a verdict, guilty on all counts. Bundy, the man who had once believed he could charm his way out of anything, was now a convicted murderer, facing the ultimate penalty for his crimes, death. The courtroom erupted in cheers and gasps of relief, a collective exhale as the weight of Bundy's crimes, the terror he had inflicted, finally lifted, replaced by a sense of justice served, albeit a bittersweet victory in the face of such unimaginable loss. The end of the line. On January 24, 1989, at 7:06 a.m., Ted Bundy's reign of terror came to an end in a stark, sterile room at Florida State Prison. The air was thick with anticipation and the pungent odor of disinfectant. Strapped into the electric chair, his body racked with the final tremors of life as the current surged through him, Bundy's carefully constructed facade finally crumbled, revealing the emptiness that lay beneath. The man who had captivated and horrified a nation, who had used his intelligence and charm to mask his depravity, was no more. In his final hours, as the clock ticked down to his execution, Bundy granted a series of interviews, most notably to psychologist Dr. James Dobson, in which he attempted to portray himself as a victim of pornography, claiming that his exposure to violent imagery had fueled his dark desires, ultimately leading him down a path of destruction. However, his attempts at deflection, at shifting the blame, rang hollow, exposed as the desperate ramblings of a man facing his own mortality. The nation, captivated by the Bundy saga for over a decade, watched and waited. Their televisions tuned to the latest updates, the airwaves buzzing with speculation and analysis. Some found solace in the knowledge that Bundy would finally be held accountable for his crimes, that justice, albeit delayed, would be served. Others grappled with the unsettling reality that a monster had walked among them, hiding in plain sight, his true nature masked by a veneer of normalcy that was as terrifying as it was perplexing. As the execution hour approached, a crowd gathered outside the prison, a mix of onlookers, protesters and media, their presence a testament to the enduring fascination with the Bundy case, a macabre reflection of society's obsession with the dark side of human nature. The echoes of horror. Even in death, Bundy cast a long shadow. His crimes continue to haunt the national consciousness, a chilling reminder that monsters could lurk in the most unexpected places, their true nature hidden behind charming smiles and carefully constructed facades. The families of his victims, forever scarred by his brutality, struggled to come to terms with their loss, their grief compounded by the knowledge that Bundy had taken their loved ones in the most horrific way imaginable, leaving behind a void that time could never fill. The Bundy case also had a profound impact on law enforcement, prompting a reassessment of criminal profiling techniques and a renewed focus on the importance of forensic evidence in solving crimes. The use of bite mark analysis, a relatively new forensic tool at the time of Bundy's trial, became more widespread, helping to bring countless other criminals to justice. In the aftermath of Bundy's execution, a wave of books, documentaries and television shows explored his crimes, his psyche, and the enduring fascination with his story. His case became a staple of true crime law, a cautionary tale about the dangers of trusting strangers and the importance of recognizing the red flags of manipulation and abuse. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of Ted Bundy is the unsettling reminder that monsters don't always lurk in the shadows. They can walk among us, their true nature hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy that is both disarming and terrifying. Bundy taught us that evil can wear a charming smile, that it can be intelligent, articulate, and even charismatic. He taught us that the most dangerous predators are often the ones we least suspect, the ones who blend in seamlessly with our hopes, our dreams, and our deepest fears. The monster among us. Ted Bundy's reign of terror may have ended, but the echoes of his crimes continue to reverberate through time, a chilling testament to the darkness that can reside within the human heart. The image of the charming all-American boy who transformed into a ruthless killer continues to fascinate and horrify, a stark reminder that evil can lurk behind the most unassuming facades. Bundy's ability to blend in, to appear normal, even charming, while harboring such depraved thoughts and desires, shattered the illusion of safety and shattered the belief that we could ever truly know those around us. His case forced us to confront the uncomfortable reality that monsters don't always fit the stereotypes we create in our minds. They don't always lurk in the shadows, their faces hidden from view. They can walk among us, their true nature concealed beneath a carefully constructed veneer of normalcy, their darkness hidden in plain sight. The charming stranger, the helpful neighbor, the charismatic co-worker. Bundy taught us that evil can wear many masks, that it can be disarmingly ordinary, and that's perhaps the most terrifying aspect of his legacy. Bundy's crimes were not simply acts of violence, they were calculated displays of cruelty, designed to inflict maximum pain and suffering on his victims. He played with his victims like a cat with a mouse, toying with their emotions, their vulnerabilities, their trust, before extinguishing their light forever. He took pleasure in their fear, their pain, their helplessness, his own humanity extinguished by a darkness that defied explanation. The enduring shadow. Bundy's case serves as a chilling reminder that we must remain vigilant, that we must trust our instincts, and that we must never underestimate the capacity for evil that exists within the human heart. It's a reminder to teach our children about the dangers of stranger danger, to empower them to recognize and avoid potentially dangerous situations. It's a reminder to support victims of violence, to believe their stories, and to offer them the compassion and understanding they deserve. Bundy's legacy extends beyond the headlines and the courtroom dramas. It's a legacy etched in the minds of those who lived through his reign of terror, those who lost loved ones, those who investigated his crimes, and those who continue to grapple with the unsettling questions his case raised about the nature of evil and our own vulnerability. Bundy's story is a stark reminder that the world can be a dangerous place, that evil can lurk in the most unexpected corners, and that sometimes the most charming facades hide the most sinister of truths. But it's also a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, the unwavering pursuit of justice, and the importance of never giving up hope, even in the face of unimaginable darkness. Though Bundy's reign of terror has ended, the echoes of his crimes will continue to reverberate through time, a chilling reminder that we must remain vigilant, that we must never forget the lessons learned, and that we must always strive to create a world where such horrors are never repeated. The darkness may linger, but it is in our collective power to choose light, to choose compassion, and to choose hope, ensuring that the legacy of Ted Bundy, the charming monster next door, serves not as a source of fear, but as a catalyst for positive change.